I'm Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Montgomery County Historical Society is no longer the Historical Society. In fact, it's changed its name and its look, but it remains an important repository for information and artifacts about our county. Matt Logan, Executive Director, is here to tell us all about it, including the new name.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving is just weeks away, and we are all reminded again that there are so many people in our county who are hungry and need our help. Jackie DeCarlo, CEO of the Manna Food Center, is here to explain what each of us can do to help alleviate the situation for many families in our community. Painkillers can be hazardous to our health, says Henry Hailstock, who's here today yet again, thank goodness. He comments regularly for this program, and he has this story and other Henry Hailstockisms. Artificial turf playing field surfaces can be dangerous, especially to our kids. Diana Conway, a citizen activist, is here to explain why parents and friends of young people who use these fields should be very, very concerned and think twice. And we should all be thinking twice before we place any more at our schools. Matt, welcome.
Thank you.
First time on our show, I believe?
That's true.
All right, let's cut. Let's get the mystery, the suspense that we built up. New name for the organization.
New name. We are now called Montgomery History. Here's our new logo. It fits nicely on our pin. It is
and a lapel.
Yeah, that's right. So the pin, the new logo represents our new approach to history. We want to be dynamic.
Right.
We have based this upon a quilt pattern,
Okay.
which we think is one of those items that is iconic. It connects us to our past. They're often passed down from family member to family member, much in the way that historical stories are passed down. And yet we've used very non-traditional colors, I think, to represent in a subtle way that we're not your grandfather's historical society, that we are looking to be much more relevant to the
Right.
community.
Good.
We want to collect stories.
It's perfect.
Yep.
I think the quilt, what a wonderful analogy for really what all of our individual stories are, what our collective story is, because aren't we really, each of us, we're really creating a quilt.
Well,
And each of us has a
exactly right.
unique quilt, and that quilt will keep, adding to it through the rest of our lives. So Montgomery County, and the quilt, tell us a little bit about what you and, seeing overall what's going on
Yeah.
for all these years in Montgomery County, some of the streams that we could look at from Montgomery County's history.
I mean, we have such an amazing county. We've got over 1 million people, 40% have been born in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so the county that, someone like you said you'd been born here.
I'm a local yokel.
You're a local yokel.
Yes, Matt.
And there is, it's a dynamic place and it's changed considerably. Yet all those stories need to come together and create something new. We have about 10,000 items in our artifact collection, of which a third are things like quilts and so forth.
Okay.
And one of my favorites is a crazy quilt, which really is this collection of different shapes and sizes and colors, and yet they all come together into this beautiful mosaic.
A friend and colleague of mine.
One second, Henry, one second. I know that as Henry's asking you a question, there's a website that's up. That website connects people to the historical
Yes,
society?
montgomeryhistory.org.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, Henry.
No, that's all right. Friend and colleague of mine, Anita Powell,
Yeah.
is a historian here in Montgomery County, and she was telling me about some of the stories. But what really attached me to the history of Montgomery County, I was born in Washington, D.C., born and raised there, and I knew little about Montgomery County except for the farm areas that African Americans held there, which is now called Potomac. But pictures seem to bring me closer to what Montgomery County was and now has become.
And to jump in, as I think Matt knows, my connection to the history is we live in an 1820s farmhouse that would have been knocked down had the last owners not decided to have it designated historic, which is, a challenge for anybody. And it's sitting right on River Road, and so of course everybody would have been happy to redevelop that land. And instead we've got, part of the history, and we keep finding things.
Why don't you comment on that, on these two strains here? Photos and houses and you know, not just quilts, but it's
Yeah,
the
no, I
lifeblood of
think
this
what
county.
this demonstrates is how relevant history is to our daily lives and how it can enrich our daily lives. You know, to have a historic house, it's much like our artifact collection where you can go and you can touch it. We have old typewriters that we like to bring out into the community and let people play around with those.
And where are those? I mean, how would I visit you? Where's your location?
Well, the best way to reach us is on montgomeryhistory.org. We also have a campus in historic Rockville,
Oh, okay.
just west of downtown Rockville. And that's a great place. We have the Belle Dawson Museum, where we have a new exhibition that's open through January 15th.
Okay.
That's called Cocktails, Lipstick, and Jazz. And it's going to feature things from the 1920s, whether it's flapper dresses.
Perfect.
We have an old
And how old is the
football helmet.
how old is the building you guys are in?
The house itself was built in 1815. So last year we celebrated the 200th anniversary of that, as well as our 50th anniversary of being
And
caretakers of the house.
The Bell name is a historic family name that we all now mostly
Sure.
call Beale, right?
Sure.
For,
Bell is down county, Beale a little more up county, I think. But we also have a 19th century medical museum on site. We have the county's
that must be something.
historic library.
Okay.
And then off-site, we also manage the county's official government archives.
We've got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Give us the best rationale. Why should everyone in Montgomery County visit the website? Why should everybody in Montgomery County try to make it to the museum?
Well, for one thing, it's fun. I mean, most of all, I think people enjoy seeing elements of their past. They like to know where they came from. They like to be able to touch and feel and see and experience.
Okay.
And so,
So come out and feel an experience
please do.
and say hello to Matt.
And say hi to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Look forward to hearing more about what's coming up in the
Yeah.
future time.
Thank you, Don.
Okay. Hello there.
Hey there, Don.
Jackie, you know, when I see you, I think of great hope. As Manna Food, you do such a great job. But
Well, thank
also
you.
reminded, especially the holiday time, about how many good things have happened, how much more we still have to do. So tell us what the situation is.
Yeah, right now in our county, the estimates are there are about 70,000 people who don't always know where their next meal is coming from. And when you're at the Thanksgiving season, we all want to celebrate abundance. We want to be grateful for those blessings that we have.
Don't we pray for everybody in, you know, at the table before we
So
break
many
bread?
families do that, and what we find is that more and more people come to us at the holiday season because they may just be getting by year day in and day out, but they really want to, like a senior. 25% of the people that we serve are seniors. Like in Bethesda, one of my favorite clients is named Margaret. She's 90 years old. If she wants to set a table for her family, you know, many generations, they're going to come to grandma and she's got to have enough to offer. So we need folks to donate food to us so that we have healthy items to share. We also need the time of people to help us distribute this food.
I'm surprised you haven't said money yet.
Yeah, and the third one, we say food, friends,
Yeah.
and funds.
So
Okay.
There's a website that's up right now.
Mannafood.org is where people can learn how to give of their time and their talent and their treasure. And also, if people are in need, that's where they can contact us to place an order.
Are most of these folks homeless or in transit? I mean,
No, certainly
insecure?
we serve the homeless population. We work really closely with other agencies that are trying to transition people into permanent housing. But about 2/3 of the folks we serve are the working poor. So they are like a woman that we recently became aware of. We call her Rachel to protect her identity, but she has 4 kids and she's working 2 jobs to provide for those kids.
Right.
So those folks are the ones that we're trying to help have a happy Thanksgiving.
Where's most of the population that you serve? Where are they located? Is it east, west,
We've
up
done a
county?
lot of work on trying to figure out exactly where the pockets are. We recently identified 20 priority census tracts. Many of them are in the east part of the county, but there's also pockets in Germantown, Montgomery Village, and parts of Gaithersburg.
And,
So
and that's the key with Montgomery County. There are pockets that people don't realize all over.
Such a wealthy county
yeah.
to have that
You
kind
would
of.
you would think so, but it's difficult because of this county and the income needs. That you have people that are working 2, 3 jobs just to maintain
And-
here. But they
Right.
want to be
Let's
here
just-
because of the school system, because of other opportunities
Jackie, why
for
don't you
the
comment
children.
on that and in terms of the distribution, a little bit what Henry just said.
Yeah, well, certainly, if somebody like my mom, when my parents divorced and she had 2 kids under her roof and was trying to get by with only a high school education, if she lived in this time and place in Montgomery County, she would have to make $78,000 a year. And that doesn't happen when you're an hourly worker. And so it's true that we have a lot of abundance, and luckily Montgomery County is a very generous county. We have a lot of donors, and we appreciate end of year giving when you're trying to get that tax write-off and
Right.
also express your gratitude for the blessings you do have.
And it seems to me one of the kickers is that a lot of people don't realize if you're food insecure, you're probably income insecure, which means that you're at risk possibly of being evicted, or your car breaks down, you can't get to work. You can't get to work, you lose your job, you get
Yeah.
evicted, nobody wants to rent to you, your stuff is out in the street. But to me, the big one is those kids, they lose their community, they lose their school, they lose the friends that they had established. It's so much more devastating than, just losing a job.
Well,
And
people don't realize that Montgomery County has more free and reduced lunch than Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
They don't realize that
in the public schools.
in the public schools.
Wow.
You're also a part of the National Food Bank Network, correct?
We partner very closely with Capillary Food Bank, which is part of a broader national network. We try to think globally and act locally. So, for instance, we've endorsed the UN's goal to have a zero hunger in our world by 2030. So, my background is in international service, and we try to take practices that have worked all over the world and bring them home here. As you mentioned, we have a very international community which we celebrate, and we want to make sure that those folks are as integrated as possible, and that's one of our priorities too, is offering healthy food but also culturally appropriate food.
And
Jackie,
you got, go ahead.
And
sorry.
Jackie, I like
just want to say
this.
we got 40 seconds left, so we gotta move on here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
Quick question for
Jackie,
her.
Well, I just wanted to say that I admire the food banks and how rapid they respond, because when I was working with the Food Marketing Institute and we had the devastating hurricanes and all, the food bank came faster and quicker than the Red Cross, and that's why I dealt with them to handle the needs coming
Well,
out.
we have a great legacy, and it's because the community's made it possible, and I hope the community will help us offer an abundant Thanksgiving to everybody this year.
What a wonderful end to the first half of our show. Thank you, guys. We'll be right back after these messages. Henry Hailstock, you are back
Yes,
with us. Thank you so much for being here.
like a bad penny, I'm back.
Like a bad day. Let's talk about drugs, about especially painkillers. They've been in the news. You as a star professional athlete, and before that a star collegiate athlete, that was a part of your life as a football player. Was pump you up with painkillers and get back into the game.
It's not just the athletes, although we are more prominent
Right.
in getting pains, and we have the painkillers that we have to take.
Well,
for a
especially
period
because
of time.
it's a 3-hour period that you
Yes.
had to perform on
Yes.
the gridiron.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Yeah, there's no time like
It's,
that.
and it's rough, and you have to look at now today. They prescribe morphine, oxycodone,
Right.
Codone, and this is for the pain that after surgery. I remember you were saying something after surgery, and I had both my knees, and I had to take that. And my doctor balked at me when I said I am hesitant about taking these painkillers because I know how addictive it can be.
Right.
And you have to also understand too, as we get older, our bodies are really decline in getting rid of drugs in our system. So that's one of the things you have to realize as well.
So the older you get, the more susceptible you are to getting hooked on these painkillers.
Yes, and
Is
well,
that a
that's anybody.
metabolism issue, or is that?
Metabolism issue? Because as you get older, it's hard for your body to metabolize and get rid of the drugs in your system. Period.
Is
And
this
it's a fact.
prescription only, or
Because
Drugs,
it's
period.
prescription,
Drugs,
over the counter.
Drugs, period. Drugs, period. And really, just to give you an idea, the statistic I looked up, and I'm really amazed about that, but every day, 46 Americans die of drug overdose.
Wow.
Okay, 46 every day. This is every day. So we need to be careful of that. But I remember back, and I think I was telling you in, what do you call it, the blue room, green room?
The green room.
Okay, whatever room, whatever color room it is, that really back in the late 90s and early 2000, you had a push for the doctors to prescribe more of these painkillers for people that had, the chronic pain
Yeah.
or coming off of surgery or had, minor pain and all. And it's
The fatalities, though, that you mentioned so tragically, that's getting a lot of attention. It seems like that there are Governor Hogan and others have brought this up.
and it's just recent,
Right.
and
I think State's Attorney McCarthy is really, he's the one who led this in
Right.
many ways because
Exactly.
because that also has fueled the heroin
right, exactly.
crisis
Right,
in our
and,
country.
and I've heard
Exactly.
several people, I've read this repeatedly, which is that the heroin crisis, not only because of the numbers, but because suddenly it's affecting all strata of society, that's part of why it's sort of broken through as a bigger issue.
But more so with older people that have multiple illnesses and all. You're taking all these painkillers. Just imagine now that you have this chronic pain and your doctor prescribes this opiate, all right? And you may forget that you have to, you've taken it and you're taking it,
Oh,
because I
yeah,
know
yeah.
I have
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a lot of things. And all of a sudden there's a, overdose. The age group that has the most fatalities here as far as overdoses are from ages 45 to 55.
Are you talking about prescription or any overdose?
Prescription.
Right.
It really, and that's a problem.
Right.
Now, everybody said, well, I'm okay because I take the, Motrin or Advil and everything. That's a problem as well, because...
It's a liver problem, right?
Well, not only liver, but you're susceptible to heart attacks and strokes by taking these things.
Henry, let's get into what kind of solutions have you been looking at? Because so much of the pain is about quality of life,
Yes.
and that's where we came in.
Especially if you have chronic.
You've got chronic,
pain,
it's to be able to live with that pain. And so how do we balance what good these pain relievers have done to the
you know what I'm
with
going to say, control.
We got about a minute left.
Control?
Yeah, control, making sure that you're controlling it, making sure that you're not taking more than you're supposed to, making sure that it's the right dosage, and knowing when you're supposed to get off it. And if you you have chronic pain and all, there are other ways to help. Yoga,
Sure.
therapy, and exercise.
Exercise.
And that's the key.
Yoga.
It really helps. Trust me, I know because I have chronic pain.
Yeah.
I live with pain every day, and I know that exercise and really controlling what I and how I do it.
And you should
helps.
ask your doctor for these tips when he's or she is writing the prescription, or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. When you go to
Self-educate.
see your doctor, make sure you're asking all the questions
yeah.
you
Yeah.
need to ask. That's the key for anything
You
that
have to be an advocate
that
for
you have.
yourself.
I'm serious.
Do you have an opinion on decriminalization of marijuana?
10
Which seems-
seconds.
Sorry,
10 seconds.
that's a
First
live
of all,
question.
Can of
Yeah.
worms.
First of all, I don't like
Really?
it. I never did it. I never smoked or anything else.
Right.
I just don't like it. But it's the same thing with alcohol.
Right.
All right,
know?
Henry Hailstock
Really.
telling us he's never puffed. And,
Never inhaled?
Never inhale.
There you
Never
go.
inhaled. Thank you so much, Henry. Dinah, welcome. Your
Thank
first
you.
time on the show.
It is.
It is exciting to have you here.
Thanks.
You're very, very concerned about the proliferation of artificial fields that our kids are playing on. That and maybe we all have seen these, and there are all these all-weather fields that are hyped up that are going to lower costs over time, don't need as much maintenance, and our kids can play there all the time. But there's so much more to the story, isn't there?
There are a lot of problems with artificial turf fields that are just starting to appear now, so that people are literally ripping them out in Europe and teams are refusing to play on them. The three main categories are toxicity, heat and injury, and then the third one is cost. And on all three bases, artificial turf is a bad deal.
Now, we have such a short time, and I know that everyone is going to be asking questions here.
Right.
So in one sentence each,
Okay.
go through the toxics, one sentence about the heat and injury, and one sentence on the cost, and then we can talk about that.
How long are the sentences? Okay,
Short,
so
run-ons.
just right to the point. 'Cause we gotta-
toxicity is an easy one because everything that's good for a tire is bad for a child or anybody.
Wow.
And so you're putting kids onto 30 to 50,000 shredded waste tires. Those would normally be considered hazardous, toxic waste, but if you shred them up,
And that's what
That's the little
what's
black-
consisting.
yeah,
That's the black
lead,
pellets
that are-
mercury,
Okay.
neurotoxins.
All right, so we got tires and all the awful stuff that are in tires. Second, on the heat. What's with the heat?
The heat is generally 50 to 70 degrees above ambient air temperature on a sunny day. That is lethal. So we give communities heat warnings for 105 degrees, and then we ask athletes, children or otherwise, to get out on these fields at 130. They've been measured up to 200.
And what, just right at the foot level, right where they're touching the surface, or going?
Yeah, no,
across?
so
Okay.
it's highest at the lowest level. So, for
Right.
example, the youngest kids are at highest risk.
Okay.
It's for people who are athletes that roll in it a lot, whether it's a goalie or something like that. It's a much higher.
So the
issue.
rubber, the tires are absorbing the heat, or
The whole surface. So, and the plastic grass
cost.
cost.
Oh, I mean, by the way, there's a website that people can
I'm
go
sorry,
to
yes,
while you're talking.
it's called www.safehealthyplayingfields, plural, safehealthyplayingfields.org. It's got a ton of information on all three categories. In terms of the injuries, artificial turf is known to be much harder, and it gets hard fast. Richard Montgomery and Walter Johnson High School both came in above the levels that are considered acceptable for athletes, and these are young people.
Okay.
And so
What kind of
does our
injuries are they? Are they ankles? Are they knees?
They
Are
generally tend to be lower body torque injuries, often without impact with another athlete, because the artificial turf grabs cleats differently. And so dirt, if it gets divots in it, is actually doing its job, because it allows a rotation without the lock of a foot and then the rotation of the knee or the hip. A lot of ACL injuries.
And let me just say that even that withstanding, if you are, saying, playing soccer or football and you dive, fall, that, as you call strawberry or everything, is more of a problem than normal. Okay, just
Right,
imagine
right,
you falling on concrete and you scrape yourself.
Sure.
That's why you see, if you look at the football, that's on now, you'll see a lot of the athletes
Oh.
with this long pad.
And the soccer players are
Same
wearing
thing.
bare legs, and they're getting
Exactly.
these
So
massive,
So is that how the
vicious.
toxicity is transferred
Well, there are
through-
three vectors for toxicity: inhalation, ingestion, or dermal uptake. And so this is a huge raw scab,
Yeah.
and you're getting lead and mercury exposure. There's also MRSA on these fields.
Yes.
So
Oh, my
I know that Manna serves in 60 elementary schools. What's the extent of the problem in MCPS? Are there artificial turfs used throughout, only at high schools? What's
So
the-
far, they're only at 6 high schools, but
Okay.
generally speaking, the Board of Education is very strongly in support of them, because they want what they call field equity for kids. It's sort of weird, because normally you think of poor children being exposed to the highest risk, like lead paint. This is sort of the reverse, where the more affluent communities see this as a real benefit, a real draw, and so they're getting them first. Like I said, Richard Montgomery, Walter Johnson, Quince Orchard, Damascus, is getting one soon, and they're considered attractive. And yet, if you look at our professionals, they hate them. You get people like Abby Wambach or Hope Solo, who sued FIFA for having to play on artificial turf because the men were getting grass, which is considered a superior
We have a
Well,
surface.
minute
so the
left, so let's-
parents are in favor of it? Well, what about taxpayers and the cost of it?
The cost is a huge issue, and this is where the industry has done a great job of marketing, because they look at the cost across their 8-year warranty. If you look at it and compare it to a well-maintained grass field, it's actually much less expensive. And we know people who've actually run companies and do this professionally, who say they can run 2 to 3 natural grass fields for the cost of one artificial turf field. And Montgomery County has a sole bid contract with one of the companies that's been sued the most. It's called Field Turf, $1.3 million per field every 8 years. People don't realize they have to be replaced every 8 years. So if the boosters come up with the first bunch, the rest is on people who aren't even there to approve it. It's a lot of money. We've got failing HVAC, we've got failing buildings, we've got kids with a lot of needs.
And we've got a lot of needs. Diana, thank you so much. And our need right now, unfortunately, is to end. But thank you for bringing this to our attention. And thank
pleasure.
each of you for what a great show and great interaction. And I hope all of you enjoyed it. Thank all of you and the viewing audience for joining us as well for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Moores, inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.